It all started with that vision and that idea to create a platform and to do something that's not been done before.
I've always been one to always question different things, different narratives, different stuff that's in the mainstream. Because I always find a lot of things that is on there is very dishonest.
If you're not showing everything, then you're not providing the correct service.
When you're being told what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say, then that creates a certain effect on the human soul, on the human spirit.
It felt like we didn't just need content, we needed a platform. We needed a platform where content creators, where filmmakers could actually earn a living creating this content and try and create a rival to that mainstream machine.
From spirituality to also current affairs and health and well, you name it, it's all welcome at the platform as long as it's open to alternative viewpoints.
But you need to understand that our viewers, they're on their own journey, or else they wouldn't be here.
So it started really with that idea and that passion to create an alternative media platform rather than just a film or a show. It's actually a platform where it's owned by us, it's independent, it's not got corporate owners or advertisers or people saying you can't speak to them or you can't make that content. It's very much our only guide is the truth.
It's an alternative platform for people to find information that they wouldn't normally find in the mainstream media. So it's a free speech platform, meaning that we don't censor our content. We allow people to present whatever truth they have to present, and we let people decide for themselves what the truth is.
It doesn't segregate people, it brings them together. It creates a unity, it creates a movement. It's a platform for everybody to basically sit there with their family members that are on the other end of the fence and then basically say, I have a group of people I can speak to openly, honestly, and not be criticised, not be judged.
And even the way that we decide what content we make is different. We don't sit and look at our ratings and look at our viewing figures and go, well, people want this. We put out what we think people need to know, what we think is most important for them to understand and what's going to help grow this awakening, which is different, I'd say, to any other channel. They just make what they think their audience want. We've made content and interviewed people before that have actually really divided the audience, and that's actually great because it gets people talking, it starts conversations, it gets people thinking differently. So,
we don't put any limits on our content, on the presenters and the filmmakers that want to get a message across. So I think that's one of the unique things about Ickonic, is that there really are no limits to what you can say.
I like that aspect, and that's kind of what's gravitated me towards here and kept me here in this position to kind of be involved and hands-on in every aspect to make sure that what we do gets out there, that what we say is heard, and then people have the option to either agree with what we're saying or disagree with what they're saying, but the important thing is they have an option. So yeah, that's what's missing in this world. Options, choices.
If you look around today in the media and social media, we have a lot of censorship and deplatforming and shadow banning and all that. So what Ickonic does is it provides a place for people to express themselves without worrying about being censored.
It's a massive niche in the market for this, for what we do, because there's not a lot of people that do what we do in the way that we do it. What we do, we express different stories, we tell stories of people that the mainstream don't want to tell.
Because obviously with the mainstream media, you only get one side of the story. It's beneficial for everybody to know both sides of the story, and then you can make your own judgment. That's what I think Ickonic brings. It's just another narrative.
Completely no censorship. So that also means that sometimes we might not even agree with each other within the company about certain things that we do, but it doesn't matter because we understand that we don't have to agree with each other. Generally, we tend to anyway, which is it's a bonus really. But we're truly saying freedom of speech is freedom of speech. That means that every subject can be explored and can be honestly explored, you know, without any barriers in the way.
Well, we've got groundbreaking movies, we've got documentaries in terms of like A Good Death, which was touching on real life stories and basically telling essentially what the mainstream will not tell you. Everything we touched on in that film were things that the mainstream were telling you that it's not happening. And then now, all these years later, it's coming out, this was happening, they were right. You know, these are real people, real stories, this is their life, and they were shut down when they tried to combat it, saying, no, this isn't happening to your grandparents, this is happening to your wife, this isn't happening to your family. When it was happening to them, they experienced it firsthand. So we gave them the platform to basically tell their story, be heard, and not feel alone, not feel like they're not being listened to, and help get them to a form of justice.
It truly goes beyond the duality. There's a lot of alternative platforms where they're standing up for something great, but then they only get sort of a small part of the picture. Whereas with Ickonic, what's so great is that we're looking at all sorts of different aspects.
You constantly look into areas that might even be areas that you never thought you would look into. And you're constantly exploring and trying to push that boundary of what there is to learn, because there's so much to learn. We don't even know 1% of what there is to know. And I think we're one of the only places that probably think that way and are happy to go into areas that are uncharted and happy to be controversial and happy to be, you know, a target for people to look at and go, you know, we don't like that, we don't like that. They're exploring this, they're exploring that, because history's shown us that people in their lifetime that go into areas that are different sometimes are not particularly liked in their lifetime.
Obviously, we don't want to incite hatred and violence. That's not what we're about, but we're about finding the truth. We have a deep commitment to finding the truth. And in order to find the truth, you can't be censored. You have to be able to think freely.
We launched in November 2019, and 3 months later, the whole pandemic or plandemic happened, and that changed the direction of the channel a lot, and it massively increased the interest and put a lot more pressure on me, to be fair, straight away to deliver more content, to deliver more films. You know, our subscriber base doubled in the space of a week. I've seen lots of people in the alternative and independent media pick a side, and with the Gaza-Israel situation, rather than coming out going we're pro-Israel or we're pro-Palestine, which everybody else seems to have done, we can sit in the middle and say actually there's atrocities and there's horrible acts on both sides, there's people dying, there's innocent civilians, there's children that have been killed on both sides, and war is never a good thing, and the people that always suffer are the civilians. So I definitely think the response in the recent weeks, I've had a number of messages from people saying that we've been a voice of reason or a voice of balance in all this madness. So that's been really refreshing, because one of the keys we will never do, as I said about truth is your only tribe, is we will never pick a side. Because when you pick a side, you'll always defend that side even when they do something wrong, and you'll always ignore the other side who might well have some valid points. So with that, that's been a really refreshing response recently.
The response has been amazing. The response has been global, essentially. We've got viewers from all around the world that watch our content, whether it's on social medias, whether it's on the platform, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's David's talks elsewhere as well. And a lot of people have said, thank you. Thank you for raising the voice. Thank you for being our voice. Thank you for telling people what the mainstream is trying to shut down, what they're trying to block.
Jamie Ike, the founder of Ickonic, he started the channel only a few months before the pandemic in 2020. And it was the perfect timing because, you know, people were looking around, they were trying to find information about, you know, what's going on, because everyone could see that the narrative was being strictly controlled in the mainstream. And, you know, it was the first time where everybody started to see these little disclaimers at the bottom of a tweet or of an Instagram story that, you know, this is misinformation and it's been proven to be wrong, fact-checked, and people were getting shadow banned and, you know, deplatformed just for expressing an opinion online.
Every time people are telling their stories, they're getting taken down, they're getting deleted, they're getting deplatformed. They're being told, that's not true, you're spreading misinformation, you're doing this, you're doing that. And yeah, where are they? Who are these people to be saying that to the people that are actually experiencing it firsthand?
And so the initial reaction of Ickonic was, people were flocking to us to find out what's really going on, because, we were providing that platform of a diverse range of information that was interpreting what was happening in the world at the time. And, and from there, it's grown from strength to strength, really, as people start to realize that they're not going to find the truth in the mainstream media.
We have our logo, and beneath that it says question everything, and I think that's what our viewers do on a daily basis when they do come onto our platforms, or they do watch our documentaries or our films or our weekly shows. So maybe you might be angry or offended by something that we put out, but eventually there may be something that you look and you go, I didn't know that. And if that betters you, then I've done our job. I've done my job, and the team have done their job.
We initially, when we launched the channel, we used the video sharing platform Vimeo to host the videos, and they deleted everything. They deleted the whole channel with no warning. Fortunately, we had all the videos backed up. Obviously, we'd been crazy not to. So that was happening in the early days. That happened in May 2020. Same day we got deleted by MailChimp, a mail sending software. We got deleted by pretty much everything in that period, and we've had to then just build our own technology from scratch. We've had companies refuse to work with us, venues where we've tried to do events that don't want to have us in. So yeah, there's been a number of setbacks like that, but all that I see is when you get those kind of opposition, it means you're doing the right thing. If you don't get any opposition to what you're doing, you're not going far enough. So the fact that we've had those setbacks and those challenges, which for me, as weird as it sounds, that's the part of the job I love. I love challenges to try and overcome and navigate ways around the censorship and things like that. So it's actually quite good fun because it shows that you're on the right track.
Everything was built from scratch with Ickonic, which is, I think Jamie made a very good decision doing that, because you know what's happening now, people are being banned left, right and centre. So in that sense we've been lucky. However, when it comes to advertising, we've been censored majorly, which means we've had to slowly build up our base. And so we're not a one-day flyby. We're definitely very slowly but consistently expanding out. So me personally, with my productions, I haven't really had censorship because my films are generally about consciousness and spirituality, and it would be very funny to say we're censoring you because you're saying we are the all that is, all that ever has been and all that ever will be. So yeah, my kind of content is not very attacking and baiting. We leave that to David Icke.
We've had a lot of instances where we've been taken off Facebook, where we've been taken off Instagram, Twitters. David's had it more extensively than any of us. And then it's just been trying to navigate around that, trying to make sure people can get the messages out there, they can hear stories that relate to them.
We always joke about that there's a ghost in the machine because every day there's some new problem with the technology that we use that is unexplainable, and we have to figure out how to solve it before we can do our filming. Just earlier, for example, we couldn't get the screen behind me to work, and which is very strange because no one touched anything. From one day to the next, it just didn't work. So we always like to joke that, because we're creating this type of truth content, that there's certain forces in the world watching us and trying to sabotage what we're doing so that we don't get the message out there. That may be a little self-important way of looking at it, but I genuinely think that people in the world today that are trying to speak their truth in some way or another have to face challenges, because there is definitely a force that doesn't want humanity to awaken to the truth and what's really going on in the world.
But what I really want to go into next, so we're going to make some content on this in the next 6 months, is the issues that we face, looking deeper into why they are what they are. So a big one which we've had talked about in recent years is the indoctrination of children with this kind of ideology of gender confusion, which is really becoming an area of concern for so many parents, so many people. I want to know why they're doing that, because I don't think it's just as simple as drugs, selling kids, these puberty blockers and things like that. There has to be a deeper and more sinister motive behind it, and I want to know what that is. Same with all the examples of satanic rings and abuse and things like that that go on. Again, there has to be a deep reason that that goes on and has gone on and goes on everywhere. And I want to understand what they are, because I think by exposing and highlighting those, we can bring a much greater understanding to people of why these things happen. I think at the moment people just feel quite lost that these things are happening. They don't like the fact they're happening, but they don't understand why. And I think always understanding the motivation behind behind something being done is a much, much greater way to be informed. It's like, I use the example of a child. You tell a child something and they say why, and then you answer them and they say why. Again, keep saying why. That's what I want Ickonic to do, is to keep asking the question why. Why is this happening? Okay, why is that happening? Why are they doing this? And keep going back way. And eventually you're going to get to the root of what's really behind it, and they're the areas I want to go into.
What really drives me as a filmmaker is to awaken humanity. It always has done, and that's also the reason why I became a filmmaker. So anything I can do to make people snap out of the illusion. In my opinion, humanity's biggest disease is living in illusion and delusion, and we're all thinking that the way we perceive the world must be how other people need to perceive it as well. And I'm really trying to make it very clear that everyone's reality is a subjective reality, and that if we truly want to grow as a human race and come back to unity, we have to be willing to let go of belief systems and willing to truly come back to a state of alignment. And the documentaries that I make are hopefully all encouraging people to do that.
For me, there are two subjects which I personally find deeply important. One is to know the truth about what's really going on. So I remember a few years ago when Harvey Weinstein, was charged with rape, and there was this big movement, this uprising of women, #MeToo. And I remember thinking to myself, this is great, but it's not the final destination. There's other things about society, about the world, that needs to be uncovered. And then shortly after that, I think it was maybe a year after that, the Epstein case appeared, and he was arrested, and I felt that was getting close. So for me, one of the most important subjects is, what the elites are getting up to with, these satanic networks, this human trafficking, and I think that whole subject is deeply important, because we need to know what's really going on behind the scenes, what these powerful people are getting up to. We need to know, because they are making decisions for the rest of us, They are like self-imposed rulers of humanity. So none of us wants to know that our leaders are getting up to the most disgusting, horrible activities that you can think of,
The subjects I want to address on Ickonic, homelessness. Homelessness has been a massive problem. So they've been telling people during lockdowns, don't spend time with your family, don't go here, don't go there. But there's people been there, like on the streets and things, with nowhere to go, no family to go to, no house to go to, no shelter. There's been locked out there, nowhere to go because everywhere's been locked off. And they've been forgotten about. Even to this day, with the whole thing that's been going off recently about if you've got a tent, it's a choice. Like, no, they want shelter. They want somewhere they can be warm. They want to live, essentially. They're not helping with that. They're just putting more roadblocks in the way for them.
I'd love to do more on mental health, because I believe that it all goes hand in hand. If your heart's not happy, your mind's not happy, your body's not happy. You start with your mind and the rest will come. So I'd love to do more with mental health, but really, really dig into it. Why? Why are kids, young kids, and my age group and even younger, we were climbing trees. We weren't suicidal at that age. So that's what I would like. I would like to bring more focus to that, because I think it's not right, and we need to.
The truth is that we have immense power inside us, And for me, the most important subject is to figure out how to awaken that power, how to unlock that power, because I think once more people do that, then we can change the world very rapidly. You know, if more people start to awaken to the truth of who they are and to realize how much power they actually hold, you know, I think the world can change overnight.
I feel much more knowledgeable and empowered to be able to run this now than I did, say, a year ago. If we were starting today, I'd definitely have done a few things differently. I think I was very, very underqualified to take on this position, and I really thought that when we launched, it would be a slow build and you'd have time to learn and make your mistakes and learn. And then obviously when the pandemic happened and we grew so quickly, you kind of got forced to learn on the job. And there's content that we made that I probably wouldn't have made. There's people we maybe worked with that I wouldn't work with in future. And I think the biggest thing I'd learn moving forward is that the team environment that you have, the team that you build, is so important. Because now we've got a smaller team, for example, than we had a year ago, but we produce more content that's much better because we're a team that's united, really, really efficient. Everyone respects each other. Everyone's got different skills to bring. And I think that's an amazing way to be in any work environment, let alone one where you're trying to produce content that's sometimes quite difficult to work with because it's very dark, sometimes it's very, you know, empowering and amazing. But I think if you're working as a tight unit, you can definitely, you know, it's definitely a much more fruitful process.
We have a lot of films coming out next year. I have a series that I'm working on called Grounded, which is exploring ways in which we can give back to Mother Earth. So episodes will be talking about planting trees, purifying water, looking at the skies and what's happening in the air, how can we regenerate the soil.
But we're going to have a lot of groundbreaking documentaries, we're going to have a lot of news and current affairs, a lot more David, a lot more Gareth, a lot more Jamie.
I'm not going to tell you that, am I? Whew, I need a few tricks up my sleeve.
We owe a lot to Mother Nature, so I feel I wanted to make this series to explore ways in which we can, you know, give back and give thanks.
What I look forward to every day coming into the office is just getting the truth out there, especially on the political scene. I think people need to be informed. We also do a lot of health content, which is beneficial from the young age to the older age.
We're looking to diversify the content, diversify the platform, make sure every single person, every subscriber, every member feels included. Give them more of a voice, ask them if they want, like, what type of content do they want to see, and then we'll deliver.
Hello everyone, my name is Niclas and we're once again speaking to Mr. David Icke.